This isn't just another story about money or fame. It's really a story about obsession, about spectacular failure, and about this relentless, almost inhuman drive to build the future. And we're going to hear it from his perspective. So let's dive in.
And this quote, it basically says it all. This is the core operating system, right here. It was never about fitting in. It was always about pushing us as a species forward, even if the rest of the world thought he'd completely lost his mind.
So, a mindset like that, where does it even come from? Well, for that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Back to a really tough childhood in South Africa, where his entire character was basically forged in fire. He talks about growing up in what he's called a violent house in Pretoria. But here's the interesting part. Instead of seeing it as something that broke him, he sees it as this early test, a challenge that lit a fire in him, not just to get out, but to build something so big it would actually matter. I mean, can you imagine? He said that by the time he was 5 years old, he genuinely thought he was insane. His mind was just constantly firing off with these huge ideas about how the universe worked, while all the other kids were, just being kids. This feeling that his brain was just wired differently drove him to basically inhale encyclopedias and tech manuals, anything he could get his hands on to figure out the world for himself. And that internal drive, it didn't stay inside for long. At 10, he's teaching himself to code. Just 2 years later, he sells his first video game. And that $500 for Blastar, that wasn't just money. That was the first taste, the first real proof that he could take an idea from his head and make it real. So, by 17, it's no surprise he knew South Africa just wasn't big enough for his ambitions. And he left, all alone. And that place he was looking for? It was Silicon Valley. But here's the thing. Showing up with big ideas is one thing. Turning them into a business when you have almost zero resources, that is a whole different ballgame. This next chapter is all about the struggle. This is the gritty reality of his first company, Zip2, back in '95. And it was anything but glamorous. He gets rejected for a job at Netscape. So what does he do? He decides to just start his own company. He's sleeping on the office floor, taking showers at the YMCA, and getting laughed out of the room by the newspapers he's trying to sell his idea to. Every single day was a fight just to survive. And this is how he describes it. Which is, wow, it's just such a raw, painful description of what that journey is actually like. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. But after 4 straight years of eating glass, it happened, the payoff. Compaq bought Zip2, and overnight he went from sleeping on a floor to being a multi-millionaire. But for him, you have to understand the money wasn't really the point. It was the validation. It was proof that he could, in fact, bend reality to his will. Now, most people would have just stopped there, right? Cashed out, bought an island. Not him. He immediately took all of it and rolled it into an even bigger, crazier idea, X.com, an online bank that would completely change how we use money. And this is also where he got a huge personal blow, getting fired as the CEO while he was on his honeymoon. But even that didn't stop the train. And yeah, that vision for PayPal, it turned out to be a gold mine. In 2002, eBay buys the company, and he walks away with $165 million. Now, for most people on planet Earth, this is the end of the story. You win. But for Musk, this was just the beginning. This was the rocket fuel for his truly insane ideas. So that massive fortune, that wasn't the finish line. Not even close. This next phase of the story, this is the ultimate test. This is where he takes every single penny he has and bets it all on 2 companies that were on a direct collision course with total catastrophic failure. So instead of buying that island, he poured everything, and I mean everything, into 2 goals that sounded like science fiction: making humanity a multiplanetary species with SpaceX and kickstarting the world's transition to sustainable energy with Tesla. And you know what everyone told him? His friends, his investors, his family, they all told him he was absolutely crazy. So what happens when you bet it all on the impossible? What happens when your dreams don't just fail, but they literally explode right in front of you? The year 2008. Let's just paint the picture here, because it was an absolute nightmare for him. The first 3 SpaceX rockets, boom, blew up, taking millions of dollars and a whole lot of hope with them. And at the exact same time, Tesla was hemorrhaging cash, literally hours away from going bankrupt. He'd put all of his own money into both. He was tapped out, broke. Both of his world-changing dreams were dying at the exact same time. So it all came down to this: the 4th launch of the Falcon 1 rocket. There was no money left for a fifth try. This was it. One rocket, one final shot. If this one failed, it was game over. SpaceX, Tesla, everything, gone. And against all odds, it worked. The rocket actually made it to orbit. It was this incredible technical victory, but honestly, it was more than that. It was survival. And then, just in the nick of time, on Christmas Eve of all days, NASA calls. They award SpaceX a massive contract that not only saved the company, but gave him the capital he needed to turn around and save Tesla too. The impossible had just happened. But here's the thing about achieving the impossible. It doesn't come free. There is an immense, almost unimaginable personal cost to that level of ambition. And it's all driven by this one unified vision that connects all these different companies. You know, when we see these rockets landing themselves or a brand new Tesla hits the road, we're only seeing the final product. We don't see the price tag. And as he puts it, that kind of success, it often takes way more from you than it ever gives back, at least on a personal level. And that price, it's very real. We're talking about 120-hour work weeks. I mean, just think about that. Sleeping on factory floors. It's meant divorces, strained relationships with his kids, and a level of constant stress and public scrutiny that just never, ever stops. It's the relentless, painful, and often lonely price of building those dreams. So why on earth would anyone pay that price? Well, this is why. It all connects. It's not a bunch of random companies. SpaceX is humanity's lifeboat, a backup plan. Tesla is about making our current planet sustainable for as long as possible. Starlink is about connecting all of humanity. And Neuralink? No, that's about making sure we can keep up with artificial intelligence. They are all just different tools for the same mission, the long-term survival of our species. Which really leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? He knows people call him crazy, he knows his ideas sound impossible, but he kind of poses the question right back at us. Haven't the people who've truly changed the world always seemed a little bit crazy at first? It's a powerful idea to end on, and it makes you wonder, what really is the price of building tomorrow?